The 40-year manhunt for one of the most prolific serial criminals in American history perhaps coming to an end at this suburban home.
We found the needle in the haystack, and it was right here in Sacramento.
Police say this man, 72-year-old Joseph James DeAngelo, is the elusive Golden State Killer. The former police officer allegedly responsible for at least 12 murders, upwards of 50 rapes, and more than 100 burglaries in California from 1976 to 1986. DeAngelo's name never coming up in prior investigations, but just 6 days ago, a critical clue.
We started some surveillance. We were able to get some discarded DNA, and we were able to confirm what we thought we already knew, that we had our man.
There's no time. No.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey everybody, it's episode 89.
That's right. Guess what? They caught him. The original Night Stalker.
Otherwise known as the Golden State Killer.
Yep, so we're going to revisit this subject because this is one of our first video on the original Night Stalker. Is probably one of our most popular shows.
Yeah.
I think it's got, almost 18,000 views,
yeah.
I think, on
Which is a big deal for us.
Yeah, and as soon as this happened, everybody started hitting us up with messages and in the comments section, hey man, revisit. So, it's only happened a few days ago. Jenny's collected as much new information as she could. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about the original Night Stalker and what we got right and what we got wrong. Yeah. And guess what? We mostly got that shit right. I called it. And a lot of other people did too. So it wasn't just me. Law enforcement knew kind of what kind of guy to look for. Or ex-military, probably ex-police. I was surprised that he was an actual cop at the time.
That he had been a cop, yeah.
Right. I thought that maybe he had some law enforcement training, but usually these guys don't have the discipline to remain police for very long. So I thought maybe be something more along the lines of maybe like a postman. Somebody that moved
it was
around.
like somebody like BTK, who
somebody
was like
BTK, a dog catcher. Yeah. Something like that.
Or
but
whatever he was. Yeah.
He was a cop.
Yeah.
But he got fired.
Yeah.
Because
Eventually.
Yeah. Typically kind of guys that it takes to be a serial killer, they don't have the self-control necessary to hold a law enforcement career down. It's only a matter of time. So he got fired for stealing shit, stealing dog repellent off of his job, dog repellent that he was using basically to
commit his crimes.
To commit his crimes.
Yeah. But yeah, so the interesting thing about this was that, so on the Wednesday after our last show came out, we were discussing what we were going to do for the next episode. We had an idea of what we were going to do, and we were kind of talking about it and stuff like that. And then I started getting all these messages from all these people, because I hadn't been watching the news because I had been working on some other stuff. And people were like, did you see? They caught the original Night Stalker. And I was like, holy crap. So I had to go look that up. And so by the time Wednesday night rolled around, we said, okay, well, people have been commenting that you guys should do a revisit on the whole topic. Right. So that's what we decided to do.
Yeah, we trashed the whole show that we had planned, all that news and all that shit. We're going to use that the next time.
Well, yeah, I'll do that next week.
And this is basically going to be like an emergency news broadcast.
So this is the only time we're being like super topical. We never do that.
We're usually never topical.
Yeah, because it's too much trouble.
Yeah.
But so what I wanted to do with this, I should say we're recording this 2 days before I'm putting it up, because, I like to have time to edit it and work on it and work on the video and stuff like that. So it seems at this point that I've got pretty much the most up-to-date news. Nothing really new has been posted in the last several hours. Right. And I don't really think there's going to be anything like really earth-shattering until his next court appearance, which is not until May 14th. So as far as I know, barring something crazy happening in the next couple days, I think we're pretty much up with all the shit.
Yeah, if you didn't listen to the original show, go back and listen to
it was episode 8.
Episode 8, so it was early on.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
It was almost kind of painful for me to listen to that show because, boy, we sound so uncomfortable and so formal doing that damn show compared to now. And I'm vaping my ass off because during those days, maybe we had 200 maybe
Yeah,
100
we
subs.
weren't super worried about
I wasn't really taking anything seriously. I was just sitting there dragging off my fucking vape and shit. And then people be complaining, boy, he sounds like he's on some kind of respirator. You know, hey.
calling you Darth Vader.
Yeah, man was trying to quit smoking. I did quit smoking. Haven't smoked in how long now? 2, 3 years?
We quit more than 2 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, using vaping, and I've quit vaping now too.
Yeah.
You still do, but you don't really do it on the show.
I don't do it as much, and I don't need it as much as I used to. It's all psychological.
See, it's funny because I can't. You listened to our episode 8 show, the original. The
I
one that we did again, man. You did it again.
Yeah, we were nailing him. Okay, I was saying things that were just spot on. All right.
Now,
but here's the deal. What I was saying probably was not special. Law enforcement was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
All right. I knew that this guy's ex-military. When they talked about the diamond knot, I went, that's naval.
Yep.
Okay, because Army doesn't use that knot. Army's going to use what's called a Ranger knot, which is a bowline and 2 half hitches. That was the ones that we used a lot. So diamond knot, seamen, guys that, in the Navy, they are knot masters. It's part of their training to learn all these damn knots. That's their traditions. That's their cultures. So I was going, this dude's probably, and I say it right there. It says, that's naval. Okay, naval background. And then he's running around in public with a weapon, engaging victims, shooting them. And I'm thinking, this guy's comfortable walking around in a neighborhood at the daytime with a weapon. All right. The average person wouldn't try that. They would think that they'd be spotted. But cops know that you can walk around neighborhoods in America all day long with a gun in your hand and no one will see you. Most people are not looking out their windows.
Well, yeah, why would they be?
Cops run around all the time with guns. Nobody even notices those cops because most people are just looking at what's inside their house. They're not looking out their windows.
Yeah.
American windows have shades on them. The shades are usually drawn. So they'll hear something go pop, and by the time they actually look out, it's over. That guy's gone. So that led me to believe that this guy has some kind of a law enforcement background, that he's comfortable walking around in public with a weapon, knowing that he probably can get away with it.
Well, he did get away with it for a very long time. And
then his discipline about inserting himself and extracting himself from the scene using silent vehicles like bicycles. This guy's very tactical. I'm saying this is military and law enforcement training. He's staging his ambushes and pre-planned attacks. He's going into the houses first to set up the crime scene so he can dominate it, come back later and dominate it. He would break into a house to unload all the guns and to get the layout.
He would leave ligatures there?
Yeah, leave weapons inside the house.
Leave things there, yep.
Come back later that night when the people were there and take over, like a takeover robbery.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all military and law enforcement tactics.
Yeah.
That's, it's not so much the tactical stuff, it's the strategy, it's the philosophies behind the military and law enforcement training, is to actually dominate the theater, If you're going to do this kind of stuff, you have to have total control. And the only way to get that total control is to set it up beforehand. So you're going into a situation that there's no unknowns. That's very unusual. The average criminal just doesn't think that way. They do it on the fly and make it up as they go. So I knew he'd be military or law enforcement. But I never thought it would be a guy doing it as he was a policeman. I didn't think a dude that fucked up could hold down a police job. I was wrong. This guy here, though, is a rare case. There's no other offender quite like this.
Not really.
The closest I can think of off the top of my head would have been BTK.
BTK. They have a very similar personality profiles. When you were talking about the planning and stuff like that, here's something that I read on BBC News today, and I had never really read this anywhere else. The very famous murder that he did of Brian and Katie Maggiore, who he basically shot in the street. They were walking their dog in their neighborhood. Mm-hmm. There was a confrontation. The two of them tried to run away from him. He subsequently chased them and shot them. They died later on. What I didn't know was that he had been stalking at least her for a long time before that attack even. I mean, that seemed like a botched attack. Yeah. So I had always got the impression that it was just like a random attack, like he ran into the street, like they saw him. Mm-hmm. So he's like, oh, I better kill him. Mm-hmm. But evidently, Katie Maggiore she had been being stalked at work for several months. She
Yeah.
said there was like a weird guy in a blue Volkswagen Beetle outside her work staring at her. She had gotten a bunch of prank phone calls about your time is coming and all this kind of stuff. So even that, which seemed like just sort of a random kind of thing that happened, apparently, according to the BBC, she was also being stalked because that was kind of his thing. So, before we get too far into this, obviously everybody in the world probably knows this by now, but this past Tuesday, August 24th, police arrested Joseph James DeAngelo,
You're right.
72-year-old man. Pretty sure he is the Golden State Killer.
It's him.
Also known as the original Night Stalker, also known as the East Area Rapist, or the Visalia Ransacker, which was his first name. Now, it's kind of interesting, too, and I want to get into it a little bit later about how they caught him, but they're pretty sure this is the guy. Yeah, you still have to say allegedly because,
he's not convicted yet.
He's not convicted yet.
But DNA don't lie.
Yeah, pretty much not.
Yeah.
Although I should say that the first time they tried to do the DNA, they actually misidentified the guy.
Yeah.
But
the chain of evidence now, though, no,
right.
they got him.
Yeah, this guy. Now, okay. What we said on the original show that we got right about him being a military guy, about him being a cop and stuff like that, all that correct. I have to say the one thing that surprised me the most about when they finally caught him and the more we learned about him and stuff like that, it surprised me the most that he was still alive.
Yeah.
Or that he was running around outside of prison. Also surprised me that he was still fucking living in the area that he terrorized in the 70s and 80s.
Back on the first show, I was thinking that probably he broke into the wrong person's house and that guy got him.
And they were... And
they were
law
thinking that
enforcement
too.
was kind of... The psychological profile even says at the end, look out for a lone male perpetrator broke into a house and got killed.
Right.
Look for that because that's probably what... And that's kind of what I thought had probably happened to him and why he stopped.
Another thing I want to mention, in that old video, there'll be guys in the comments, calling bullshit on what I'm saying. How would that guy know? Well, listen. I'm ex-military. All my buddies, a lot of my good buddies are ex-military or they're military now. So, some of them special forces. As a matter of fact, Jenny ended up in a photo shoot with a special forces friend of mine.
That's right, yeah.
I grew up with guys that are crime scene investigators. All right, some of them with backgrounds in that same guy owned his own paramedic company. Now what he does is he does crime scenes for a living. He owns a company that does it. I grew up with guys that are now, like best friends that are now, state policemen in several states. So I know these guys and we talk shop. Anything confidential they'd say to me, I would never put it out in the web. Okay. And I don't know anything ongoing. It's not like that. But when I give an opinion, it's based upon actual training. All right. And I've read a lot of these books like the FBI profiling. I've read them. And I know guys like that too. I know guys on the other side of the law too. I know how they think. I'm not a duck. And Jenny writes this stuff for a living. But no, what I said was true, and law enforcement was thinking the same thing. So, I wasn't alone in thinking what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And it's basically just logic. Logic, tactics, and having an awareness of what the battlefield's like, and what the street is like, and what crime is like, and what prison life is like, and what military life is like, and the way cops think, and the support behind law enforcement. Once you understand those systems and the philosophies that they go by, all this shit starts making lots of sense.
Yeah. But like I said, one thing that they did get wrong, they didn't really get it wrong necessarily, but they did think that probably the guy would only stop when he was killed or put in prison for something else, which is what they thought happened when the last known original Night Stalker crime occurred in 1986, because after that he stopped.
Yeah.
Which means that, they arrested him at his home in Citrus Heights outside of Sacramento. Like I said, some of the original break-ins, because he started with robberies in the early 70s and then proceeded to rapes and then proceeded to murders.
Yeah, he just evolved into this, into a serial murderer rapist.
Now, some of the rapes and robberies happened in Citrus Heights. So this guy has been living, I believe he moved to the house where he was arrested in 1983.
Yeah.
He's been living there this whole time.
Yeah, what happened was, he was law enforcement, so he was educated in investigative
He actually had a
techniques.
bachelor's degree in criminal justice.
Right, so he knew everything about investigative techniques and how to avoid coming under investigation. As long as there's no investigation, there's never going to be any kind of indictment. But he knew about the arrival of DNA technology.
Yeah.
So he went underground. He stopped because he knew that his DNA was out there. He knew that they didn't have his sample to compare it to, but he figured that eventually, if he kept doing his thing, they would get his blood and be able to compare it to all that DNA he left behind in the crime scenes.
Yeah.
You know, criminals, no matter how good they are, they cannot predict the future.
Yeah.
He had no idea that DNA would happen or that DNA technology would come about.
Because interestingly, the same year that he stopped, 1986, that was the year that the very first criminal was convicted using DNA evidence.
Sure.
And that happened in Leicester, England.
Yeah.
And it was the guy who was popped was Colin Pitchfork, of all things. He was done for murdering 2 teenage girls, one in 1983 and one in 1986. And he has gone down in history as the first guy convicted of a murder using DNA. And actually, the DNA profiling was actually developed by at the University of Leicester in Leicestershire.
This guy's sophisticated, he's intelligent. He's a professional. He sees that conviction and go down, and he sees the idea of DNA.
And he sees
he internalizes that, and he goes, oops, this you can't do what I'm doing anymore.
Yeah.
They're going to catch me.
Which to me, that kind of kills me because particularly in his early days with his robberies and particularly his rapes, he almost seemed like a compulsive killer because some of the rapes, like there were 2 of them in a week. Right. So I find it shocking that he was able to stop. Even though in 1986, I think he was about 40 years old, so maybe he was getting to a point where, I'm getting too old for this shit.
Kind of burning out on it.
Or something like that. But it does seem weird, although BTK did it too, right? I mean, he stopped about 14 years before he got caught.
He got bored also. They start to kind of burn out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where they don't have the same interest in it that they used to have. True. They kind of, sometimes they kind of pine away for the glory days of back when they could rape a bitch. You know what I mean? That's the way the motherfuckers thought.
They did, yeah.
But they just don't have the drive in them anymore. I really think sex drive has a lot to do with it. Well, and when you're looking at this guy, this dude's a rage monster.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? He thinks he is just the shit. He's a lord and king. He has the ability to come in your house, take your shit, take your woman and kill you and leave and eat your own shit too. Eat your food out of your...
Drink your beer.
Drink all your beer up and leave like a king, like an emperor. All right? That's who this guy wants to be. So it was this rage that kind of drove him to do all this stuff, and he just thought he was better than everybody else. But he was intelligent enough to know that he couldn't get away with it anymore, so he stopped.
But it should be noted that he was obviously still thinking about the shit because... Once in the 90s and once as late as 2001, he was still allegedly calling his former rape victims and fucking with them.
Yeah, it was about power.
Yeah. Like, I think in 2001, he actually called up one of the women he had raped 24 years prior.
Yeah.
And said something like, remember how we played.
Yeah. Well, this
shit like that.
Yeah. This guy here, he's on a huge power trip.
Yeah.
I would say that the closest thing to him would have been, here, let me go to another extreme. On the opposite end of this spectrum would be Gary Ridgway.
Right.
If you look at Gary Ridgway, just a weaselly little wimp cowering before the police during his questioning. You know what I mean? This dude's just like a zero, a total zero. Then you move up a little bit and you have BTK. BTK is kind of an intelligent guy. He actually could become a dog catcher, but he was always a wannabe. He could never be a policeman. He couldn't cut that mustard. This dude here was the real deal. He was a cop. He could be a cop for a certain amount of time. But his, pull towards evil, I guess that'd be a good way to describe it, got him into trouble and he lost his job. Well, he's going to have like these feelings of resentment against society, mankind at large. He's too big for them. He's better than them. They're taking things away from him. They're taking his job away. And, that's what's driving him, this quest for vengeance, vengeance and dominance over others. He's trying to be a god on earth, like a demonic force. That's who you're dealing with.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, all this stuff about him being disciplined and stuff like that. Yeah, we did say he was in the Navy. He actually served. He was in the Vietnam War. Yes. He served on the USS Canberra. And after he got out, when he was about 27, then he, like I said, he had a degree in criminal justice. He was a cop in Exeter, California for 3 years. And then he moved to Auburn, California and got a job as a cop there and served there for another 3 years until, like you said, he either quit or got fired because he was stealing
shit. Right.
He was stealing stuff, as Patton Oswalt put it, stealing stuff from the murder store.
Yeah.
Like dog repellent and like twine or whatever it was.
Well, he started getting off into this damn power trip, this godlike power trip where he could just run around and kill and steal and take whatever he wanted just by the power of his own authority, judge, jury, and executioner. He does what he wants.
Well, and you could tell.
It's going to get you in trouble thinking like that.
Yeah. I mean, even a lot of his original, a lot of the crime scenes where he would do shit like, you know, he would tie up the man and the woman, he would put the dishes on the man's back and say, if I hear these rattling while I'm raping your wife, then I'm going to kill her, I'm going to kill you, and all this other kind of shit. Yeah. So he really got off on just lording it over other people, having complete control over them. He would hang out in their house and be really quiet for a really long time, so they would think that he left. Right. And then he would like pop back out at him, shit like that.
Well, why be a cop? Because when you're a cop, your power is limited. Yeah. You know, you have a badge or a shield. You know, I'm talking about a whole legal system that you have to support, people watching over you. But if you're one of these guys, you can just do whatever you want. You're a judge, jury, executioner. Yeah. You don't have to worry about justice or right and wrong. You're going to transcend evil. You're just going to be evil. Do whatever you want. That's what this guy's getting off into this. You know, this is kind of like some kind of weird drug or an aphrodisiac for him. You know what I mean? Being a cop would be a step down in his mind. Yeah. You know what I mean? Oh, now I have to do what they want. Yeah. You know, this guy's super, super narcissistic. And they said that, you know, his victims said that he would lord over them and, be superior.
Yeah, he was power tripping.
Power tripping. Bigger than shit.
Yeah. The interesting thing about it, they haven't got a lot of, well, so far, they haven't got a lot of comment from people that knew him on the police force. One guy that did work with him in Exeter, I believe, did say that they didn't really think anything of him. They didn't think he was strange. Yeah. They did say that he was very serious, like he couldn't really like relax or joke around or anything like that. Yeah, kind of uptight.
It was like BTK.
Yeah, he was that similar type of dude, very regimented. Yeah. Now, one very interesting thing that one of the cops said, in 1975, there was a murder that is not attributed to the original Night Stalker. It's not part of the, you know, canonical 12 that they think were him. However, they do think it's the same dude. They don't have proof of it yet. But this happened when DeAngelo was a cop, and it was in the area where he lived. Now, this was during the area where it was still the Visalia ransacker crimes. I believe this was before the first known rape. Yeah. Someone broke into this house and tried to kidnap the 16-year-old daughter. Right. The girl's dad, Claude Snelling, who was a journalism professor, he basically jumped on the dude and tried to, like, save her. Right. And he got shot. Right. And died. Now, the girl lived, because then the guy took off. But so even though Claude Snelling is not generally, you know, is not yet classed as an original Night Stalker Golden State Killer victim, they think that DeAngelo probably did that shit too. Right. And the interesting thing is that now the cop that they talked to, they said, I don't remember him investigating that murder directly, but he would have been here when we were investigating that crime. Yeah. And he said the fact that that guy was doing this shit and then coming to work the next day and just acting all normal, super creepy. Yeah. Like, he's like, how can you do that?
Well, I'd have to say, just off the top of my head, this is probably one of the most professional, most organized serial killers. Yeah. I would say, you know, he's an actual cop. That's a high achiever for a serial killer. Most serial killers are losers. They're overcompensating for a bunch of other inadequacies. Yeah. He had inadequacies, but he could also deliver. He could make it on the police force. Yeah. That's saying a lot. You know, you have to grade these guys kind of on a curve. Right. You know, he was a rage monster. He wasn't a cop. What he really was is something more like a tribal warrior. He was a dude that would come and cannibalize you or cut your head off and take your woman and steal your shit, which is what a tribal warrior does. He was just doing it in the modern world, you know, with a modern face. A good example of what I'm talking about is you guys have seen Hannibal Rising. In Hannibal Rising, Hannibal is actually kind of equated to a Japanese tribal warrior or a samurai in a way. And if you see the movie, you'll see what I'm talking about. Somebody that cuts somebody's head off for money or and for dominance. But that's the way these guys are. They're primitive. They're tapping into primitive forces.
Like, I hate to describe them in those terms because I don't like to, because I think that's what they want. They want to be glorified, because it should be noted that this guy also had a lot of inadequacies that he was overcompensating for. According to the large majority of his rape victims, he had quite a small penis.
Right.
Some of his other rape victims reported that he would cry.
Yeah.
Or he would say things about his mother, or about a woman named Bonnie, who I believe was an ex-girlfriend that they were engaged and she had dumped him, and things like that. So,
well, don't make any mistake. I'm not saying he was a great man. I was saying the dude was a fucking like a tribal rage monster. Is what he was. Like, you know, in another era, he would have been maybe some tribalistic cannibal that would come and cut your head off and kill your woman too, you know what I mean? Something like that. But he's doing it in the modern era, you know, hating another tribe.
Yeah.
He's seeing everyone else as another tribe in a way, you know, that he's the leader of his own tribe, even though it's just him, waging war against mankind. He hates humans. You have to hate humans to do this, you know.
Which again, and that's another thing that's weird, because if you go on the Golden State Killer Wikipedia page, which was updated almost immediately, so, you know, hey, go, whoever updated that. Like the very day he got caught, they'd updated it. But it has the original physical and psychological profile that the police put out before, you know, he was caught. And one of the things that they said was that, one, he hated women particularly, because there was a lot of that kind of shit in his, you know, that he said to his rape victims. And also that they didn't think that he would have married or had a family. However, that is incorrect.
He did, yeah.
He did marry. He married a woman named, her name was Sharon Huddle, I think her last name was. She was actually a lawyer. Yeah. Although they married in 1973.
Right.
Some sources say that they divorced. Some said that they were still married technically, but estranged. I don't think she'd had any particular contact with him for a very long time. They actually had 3 daughters, and the daughters are now grown. One of the daughters was actually an ER doctor. One of them was a graduate student. I don't know what the other one did. Now, when they arrested him on April 24th, one of his daughters, who was 36 years old, was living in the house with him along with her 17-year-old daughter. Now, the shitty thing is that now these 2 women are going to be forever plagued. I mean, they're never, I mean, I would change my name if I was them.
Right.
Because how are they ever going to live a normal life now? Because now the media is just going to be like, you know, barking down their snorkel, like trying to get shit about.
It might settle down over time.
I hope it will, because I mean, I just can't imagine what it would be like to just be living with your grandpa, like a 17-year-old, a normal teenage girl living with your grandpa. And one day the cops show up and go, oh, by the way, he's a serial killer and rapist.
Okay, probably what we ought to do now is probably ought to take a break. When we come back, let's wrap some things up and answer some questions and things.
Because I want to talk about a little bit about
how they found him
and stuff like that.
I have a few questions too.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're going to take a break right now, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Okay, we're back. Now, I had a question. Was it ever resolved, the tattoo on him? Was it a bull or a bulldog? Because,
you know what? I don't know.
Because one of the drawings I saw of a depiction of him in a mask had the tattoo on his forearm, and it was a bulldog.
Right.
Other people that are way into this case say, no, it was a bull, and it's a type of a bull associated with the Italian-American community, which that would have been spot on, because he is Italian-American by the name. So you don't know. You haven't been able to find that.
It's nothing that I've seen lately has mentioned anything about the tattoo.
I bet you he had that tattoo covered up.
Maybe he did.
Yeah.
I didn't get a good enough look. Like, I saw there's some news footage of him being wheeled into the courtroom in a wheelchair, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
But I didn't really get a good enough look at his arm to see.
About the wheelchair thing, some people are saying, well, he's faking that he's weak. Behind the courthouse, there's a bunch of big cells where they keep the defendants in there. Each courtroom has its own big cell, and there's usually not enough room for those guys to actually sit down, so they stand up. And it's hard concrete floors, depending on what kind of shoes he was taken in with, that could have been hurting his feet, which meant that they maybe would wheel him out on a wheelchair. The old get broken down pretty quickly in prison. They ended up sending him to the infirmary mostly. So, I don't know if he was actually faking being weak. Just that might have been just a perception.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of thinking, I don't know if he actually had legit use of that or if it was just a ploy to make him seem like a sympathetic old man. Because here's the thing.
He's supposed to be physically active, this guy.
He was very physically active. Yeah. When they, his neighbors, I mean, because he's lived there for 20 odd years. So some of the people that live in the neighborhood still, like they've grown up there and they knew him. So, they said he's actually a very active, he had a boat, he would go fishing, he had a motorcycle, he rode a mountain bike, he worked in his garage, like he was building a table, evidently, the day before they arrested him. When they arrested him, he was cooking a big roast and all this other stuff. So he's not feeble by any means.
Yeah, well, he's going to get his ass whipped in prison on 2 counts. You know why? Raping underage women. Yeah. That's 1 strike against
13-year-old girl.
The other strike against cop. Oh, they're going to fuck him. He's
going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, a cop and a dirty cop. Yeah, he's fucked.
Yeah, which, he probably should be, honestly. Because, like I said, we're still using the word allegedly. Yeah, he hasn't been convicted yet and stuff like that. But really, the DNA match...
That's right. Okay, how did they catch him? Tell them how they caught him.
So here's the thing, and this is crazy. Okay, for a long time, they didn't even know that the original Night Stalker and the East Area Rapist and the Visalia Ransacker were the same guy. They didn't even know that until like 2001, some shit like that, when they matched up all the DNA profiles. And I think when we did our original show about original Night Stalker back on episode 8, I think the FBI had just done, or had, done not that long earlier, a renewed push. They had new sketches of him. They had they had the $50,000 reward, something like that for tips. And then there was the book by Michelle Mcnamara, the true crime writer, called I'll Be Gone in the Dark. She had been working on it for many years, and it was about the original Night Stalker. She died, obviously, in April 2016, before the book was entirely finished. I think it was about 3/4 done. So her husband, Patton Oswalt, he kind of got everyone together and got someone to finish it for her. And it was actually just published a couple of months ago. Went right to the bestseller list and stuff like that. So some people are saying that the case being back in the media might have helped. Because here's the thing. Joseph DeAngelo, now keep in mind at some stage, they had like a database of like 8,000 persons of interest for these crimes. Joseph DeAngelo was not in that database.
Yeah, he wasn't a suspect.
He wasn't a suspect.
Yeah. And
the fact that this happened so suddenly is one of the things that kills me about it. Now, what ended up happening was that they had been trying, they decided they were going to use DNA because they had DNA from, I believe, 4 to 6 of the crime scenes that was still, left over from the old days. So they said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to go to an open source genealogy website and we're going to make a profile and upload this DNA profile and see what matches we get.
Yeah.
So that's what they did. Now, since this has happened, there's been a whole bunch of like freaking out about, oh my God, privacy concerns and DNA and stuff like that. But it's not as simple as that because, one, they didn't use one of the major genealogy website. They didn't use Ancestry.com or 23andMe or any of the big ones. They used a smaller open source one, which actually does have, some legalese at the beginning. It says, you are uploading your DNA profile to an open source site. Anybody can look at it, including cops. So, if you don't want it there, take it down because, anybody can use it. So basically what ended up happening was they uploaded this DNA profile of the Golden State Killer and then waited for a match. But it had to be a partial match, obviously. So we had to find a relative.
Right.
And then from the matches that they got, they had to triangulate back and study all these family trees because apparently they've been doing this for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Now, one of the first times they did this, they actually misidentified a guy. At first, he was in an Oregon nursing home, and they had gone up there and they got his DNA profile. They took DNA from him while he was in the nursing home. And at first, they thought maybe it was him, but then they figured out that it wasn't. But then they got the hit off Joseph DeAngelo, but like I said, it was like, I think it was his great-great-grandfather, maybe. It was some kind of match, like he had the same great-great-grandfather as this other person that was on the site. And so then they triangulated. They said, okay, well, it has to be a person that is a particular age, probably someone that lives in this particular area. And they basically just kind of whittled it down. They had a handful of suspects, and then they whittled it down to him because he was the right age and the right location and everything like that. And then they staked out his house for 6 days, I believe. Yeah. And they were waiting for him to throw something out that had DNA on it. Because if you throw something out in the garbage, it's not yours anymore and somebody can take it. So they didn't say what the object was, but they evidently took something out of his garbage or something like that had his DNA on it. It was
cigarettes,
probably something like that. And it was a match.
Cup.
Now, they did it a second time, too.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that it wasn't, a fuck up the first time. Yeah. And then it was a match. And then they went and arrested him. Yeah. So hopefully, because I'm thinking, look, if it was me and I was working on pretty much he's one of the most prolific serial rapists and killers in U.S. history. And, it's been 40 years. No one's caught him. He was like this big mystery and everything like that. So I'm thinking, if it's me and I'm a guy working on the case, I would want to make pretty fucking sure that every T was crossed and every I was dotted before he was arrested. Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking, and from what they're saying, his defense team, and he was assigned a public defender. I don't imagine anyone want to defend him, but public.
They
defender,
have to.
No, I said no. I'm saying no one came forward wanting to. So the public defender has to defend them.
The trial's going to be a joke, though.
But and the thing is that the only defense that he's trying to use, the hinting of it is that they're going to say, oh, well, the DNA was obtained illegally, which
that's not going to make any difference.
It wasn't. And, it really wasn't.
He's, 74 years old?
72.
Okay. Death penalty's off the table. Even if he gets the death penalty, he'll die of old age before it's implemented.
Because you get all those appeals.
Life sentence. Life sentence ain't shit for him. That's for 5 years, 4 years. That's nothing. So he's beyond punishment, really. He's just going to spend the rest of his life in prison.
Right.
Doesn't matter if he gets indicted, or it doesn't matter if he gets convicted. Doesn't matter if he gets a death penalty or life. He's going to spend the rest of his life in there fighting. Probably most likely what he's going to do what BTK did. All right. In exchange for a life sentence, which is only a few years, really, from his point of view, he's going to get up there and give a beautiful, grandstanding confession and tell the whole story and go down as another one of these legendary serial killers, which is what I was encouraging him to do in the last video. I said, what do you want to do, man? You just want to languish in obscurity? Come forth. Come forward and claim all those street cred points that you earned from all these crimes that you committed, because that's usually what they want to do. BTK started talking again because he wanted to get caught so he could cash in on this fame and so he could relive his glory days before he went off into obscurity. That's what that was all about.
And that's the thing. Like, I'm kind of torn about this because I really want him to talk.
He's going to talk.
Because one, I want to know, like, how the fuck he could, like, just live in this community. How did he stop? Why did he stop? I'm curious about the reasons for that.
He's going to talk because he's only got a few years left. He's going to spend those years talking. Yeah. That's what he's going to do.
So I do want him to talk, but then in another way, I don't really want him to have the fame. I don't want him to become one of these, like, sexy, famous serial killers, because I think that's kind of fucked up.
It's fucked up, but that's just what serial killer fans do.
Yeah, that's what they
do. They got fans.
And honestly, it's like, I would rather know, not so much why he did it.
Yeah.
It's like, I know why he did it, because he's a shithead, but you know what I mean?
Everyone should know the story.
Yeah.
That's what he has to contribute to criminology.
If I knew someone that was a victim, if I was a victim myself,
you'd want to know the details.
I would want to know. Yeah. And, you know, maybe some of them wouldn't, and that's, you know, that's up to them. I would want to know. I want to know, like, what the deal with him was, what made him tick, shit like that.
And his story is going to end up, you know, contributing to the forensic psychologists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and in some ways, like, I kind of argue about that because, like I said, yeah, you don't want to glorify them. You don't want them being famous for being serial killers and, you know, people remember their names but not their victims' names. I understand that. That is shitty. But you have to understand them to prevent the shit from happening again. I mean, or to at least know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
The reason that we can do serial killer profiling now is because they have interviewed so many of them and they know how they work.
I'm convinced that these guys are actually a dying species.
It does seem that. I hope that's true. It does seem like that.
The modern world, the advent of social media and internet, I think is actually preventing the creation of most of these guys. And then those that are created anyway end up being caught by all this high technology stuff that's happening now, and they're caught earlier than they were before. So these guys are a dying breed, really.
And the reason, and I think maybe the reason that some of them are caught earlier is because of all the profiling work and stuff like that. Because you can identify these guys earlier. Yeah. I think in the 70s and 80s, before there was DNA, I mean, look at how many of them, look how many of them got away with it. And some of them still got away with it. They still haven't caught Zodiac or anybody like that. Yeah. I mean, this guy got away with it for fucking 40-something years. He's just been living a fucking normal life.
If Zodiac appeared now, today, doing what he did back then, he'd be caught.
Yeah.
This is from another era. Yeah. And it's just getting cleaned up now. Yeah. I figured he was dead, actually.
I did too, actually. That's why I was so shocked that they said, they found him and he was just living a totally normal life with his daughter and granddaughter right in the same fucking neighborhood where he used to rape people.
Yeah, I figured he got killed breaking into somebody's house.
So did I. That's what I would have predicted.
I thought that if they had killed him as an intruder, the police would have identified who he was, and that didn't happen. So I thought the other possibility is that he got killed during a break-in. The people that killed him knew exactly who he was, did something illegal to him, and didn't want to, you know what I mean? Didn't want to have to pay the
I think
piper.
we might have talked about that on our original show.
Yeah, and he ended up wrapped up in chicken wire at the bottom of the damn bayou, you know, alligator food.
Yeah, like somebody fed him to alligators or made him into stew and ate him or something
like that. So that's what I figured.
That's what I would have thought.
Because there's always a bigger fish. And he was terrorizing neighborhoods. They knew that this guy was out there. So all these guys with these good-looking wives, if there was any man in them, would have started to have these backup plans. I'm gonna stash a pistol here.
A lot of them did do that,
right? And I'm gonna be ready for this guy when he comes in. You know,
they had alarm. They had bells all over all the windows. Right. Like they had. I saw one woman talking about when she was a kid, how her mom would sleep with an ice pick under the pillow and her dad had a pistol under the pillow.
Right. So I figured it was only a matter of time
before he got popped by somebody.
Yeah. Before somebody says, look, he's been in here. He's coming tonight. Yeah. You know, I'm going to get him.
But I was going to say, when we were talking about, you know, him wanting to talk and wanting the notoriety and stuff like that, he really does seem to me to be that kind of personality and has been the whole entire time.
Oh man, this is all about ego.
Yeah,
ego
because
and rage.
Look at all of the, he was one of the same type of guy as Zodiac, where he's always taunting the police, you know, you dumb fuckers can't catch me, calling his victims sometimes months, years later, you know, and taunting them, reminding them about it, shit like that. Yeah. So this is a guy that has a lot of anger, and I kind of want to talk about that too, because about his neighbors talking about him and shit like that, because they had some interesting shit to say about him too. But he's definitely that type of guy that would want to be known as that. Like, you know, I'm this big bad badass. Everyone was terrified of me. You know, it just whole personality type just suggests that he would be the type of dude to do that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Saying that he's like a tribal warrior in the modern world. This is a one-man force of hatred. This is who you're dealing with. Don't look at this as some kind of weird high-minded thing that you saw, on some movie somewhere, no. This is just hate and rage. And he enjoyed it. Sometimes you can work yourself up into a rage and it feels good. Well, that's what he was doing to...
he comes across a little bit, too, as, like I said, he kind of goes from one extreme to another.
Right.
He's kind of like a super rage monster, calling and taunting and all this other kind of stuff. But then you get shit where, like, at some point in the 70s... when he was doing the rapes, he calls like a helpline or something like that and saying, I don't want to do this anymore, help me. But then, like, in the next second, he would get angry and be like, are you tracing this call? It's
almost kind of like a bipolar thing.
He was like a bipolar kind of, he had this weird kind of thing.
Well, what happens is, you work yourself up into a rage, and I guess then you realize, well, I've gone too far. My God, what have I become? And then you start, oh man, I feel bad. I had a terrible life, blah, 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 blah. Oh no, fuck that. I'm back.
That's probably exactly that.
It's going to be that. That's what they're talking
because,
about.
I mean, something else that's kind of indicative. Now, here's the thing. He worked as a cop until 1979 when he got, I don't think he was arrested, but he was just fired for stealing.
Stealing dog propellant.
Now, between 1979 and the early 90s, they're not real sure. Like, he did live in that same house, as far as I know, from the 80s until then. But they didn't know what he did for work in that time. Not yet. Not that it's come out anyway.
He was a mechanic for a while.
Well, that was in the early 90s.
All right.
He got a job for, I think it's called Save More or Save a Lot, or not. It wasn't Save a Lot. It was Save More. But it was like a grocery store chain.
Okay.
He worked at the distribution center in Roseville as a mechanic. He worked there for 27 years. Yeah. He had just retired the year before he got arrested.
Right.
He retired last year. And they talked to one of his coworkers or his manager or something like that. And they said that they just had no idea. They're like that he had been up to all that prior to that.
I would imagine that he stopped because he lost his position as a cop. So that meant that he couldn't travel the streets freely and start casing joints without attracting a bunch of attention. And DNA happened. So he knew that he had DNA out there haunting him. So he stopped, laid low, and probably couldn't really sleep too well at night for years. He's probably worried that they were going to get him at any minute.
Yeah.
Because he lost the ability to access his case and the progress of his case because he lost his job.
Yeah.
So it probably hung over him. He worried a lot, man. How could you sleep at night committing all those crimes?
Unless you're a complete and utter psychopath, which I don't.
There's also self-preservation.
Yeah.
He had all those crimes out there. He had that DNA out there, and he had no idea whether or not they were coming for him. So that probably worried him for a long, long time.
I hope it did.
Oh, I'm sure. And then he tried to get back to living kind of a normal life, like you said, working in
and he had a family, which is creepy.
Right, he had family responsibilities. So I imagine he spent a lot of time worrying about that shit. Probably think, sometimes in the 2000s he realized that, well, they probably would have come for me by now.
And I probably got off scot-free.
Yeah, so I'm just going to disappear like it never happened. But then evidently he'd be at his backyard raging and yelling, and because, he's probably trying to recapture those glory years. I used to be able to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I used to be able to take a person's shit, fucking take their woman and do whatever I wanted. That was the good old days. I'm such a loser.
That's probably exactly.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's exactly what he's doing.
Hell
check this shit. This is one of the.
They don't know who I am. They're disrespecting me. They have no idea who I am. He's one of those guys.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. That's probably exactly what he was going through his head. Here's a detail that bothered me. So remember I said that he would, like, in the 90s, I think it was 94, and he called one of his former rape victims and was taunting her. Yeah. This woman said she heard a woman's voice and a kid's voice in the background. He's calling and taunting rape victims' his fucking family in the background. What a fucker. Oh my God.
Well, his wife probably dressed him down on something, or he's being treated like a G. He goes, well, watch this. And he's thinking to himself, fuck you, bitch. I will do whatever I want to you, didn't I? That's right. That's right. And, I feel a lot better.
Yeah, it was probably
He's one
shit
of those guys
that.
like that.
Now,
I'm still the original Night Stalker.
Yeah, I'm the man.
I'm still the original Night Stalker.
Right.
Yeah.
And now some of his neighbors, like I said, he had lived in the Citrus Heights neighborhood, since 1983. So a lot of people had grown up knowing him. Like, a lot of people that still lived around there and knew who he was. They didn't know he was a serial killer, but a lot of them said the same kind of thing. They said, super, super meticulous. They said he was one of those dudes, just like BTK.
Yeah, like my stepdad. And my stepdad.
And like your stepdad. Where the grass had to be like all the same level. It was like anal retentive.
Yeah.
They said he even had permanent marks on his driveway where he would park his boat, because he had to park the boat in exactly the same spot every single time. Because the world will end if you don't park it in the same spot.
There's a lot of guys out there like that. My stepdad was one of them. All right.
I've known some people like this.
Yeah. Now, most of these guys are not killers. All right.
Thankfully, because I know a lot of people like that.
They're just assholes.
If they were all murderers, we'd all be in trouble.
Yeah, they're going to tell you that, well, they're going to freak out over how you coil up a hose.
Right.
Overhanded and underhanded, some shit like that. Man, fuck your hose.
Who cares?
Who cares about the fucking hose? You know, they're dudes like that. You know, that's not how you do this.
Yeah.
Well, show me how to do it. And you look at how they do it. And you go, man, you're fucked up. Get the fuck out of the way.
That's exactly the same type of dude this is.
And it's always a wannabe type mentality in a way. They want to be, you know, meticulous and military and this and that and the way that they do things, but they're not soldiers. They could never make it as a soldier, but they sure can coil a fucking hose.
Well,
you know
the thing about this,
like
and I think you kind of had a really good insight about this, it's like these are guys that they're not failures necessarily or losers in the same way that, you know, some of the other serial killers are, where they just like couldn't hold a job and they were useless. They have had some success. Like
they're just
this
mediocre.
Guy, he graduated from college. He was in the Navy. He was a cop and stuff like that. So he wasn't a failure, but he wasn't great.
He wasn't as great as he wanted to be.
As he wanted to be.
So this is all about being more.
Yeah, so his ambition way outweighed what he actually accomplished. And he probably felt inadequate because of that.
I'm a mechanic. I'm an okay mechanic. I'm not a great mechanic. So in order to compensate, I'm going to show you how to coil a hose.
Right.
In a way that only an expert mechanic would coil a fucking air hose.
They want to be better than everyone else.
Fuck your hose, man.
Yeah, so they're
fuck your hose.
He's very sensitive about the hose.
It brings back memories on a guy in particular. Fuck your hose, man. Fuck that hose. I will cut your hose. You know.
Well, because they can't succeed the way they want to, or they can't succeed at important things, then they get all high and mighty about little shit that doesn't
nobody
matter,
cares,
that no one cares about, and they get like really anal retentive about it. Like I said, just like BTK. Now, it should be noted too that people that have lived around DeAngelo for the past 20 odd years since he's lived in this house, a couple of them called him freak. They said he wasn't. They said he was just like real ragey. Like sometimes he'd like run around in his backyard like yelling at nobody, like having a temper tantrum. A couple of them said
they don't know who I am. They don't know who I am.
A few of them.
I am the original Night Stalker. That'd be funny, man.
He might have been doing that.
Give him a fucking cape and shit. A cape and a mask.
A really girly one. Because I know that would make him mad.
We can make fun of him now, but that motherfucker that dumbass was out there killing people.
Well, yeah, now we can make fun of him because he's in jail.
Yeah.
Well, now he's an old man. It's like, you know.
I knew he was an old man anyway. I'm just saying that making fun of a guy who brought a lot of misery to other people. But it's always funny because, you know.
Well, he should be. He should be mocked.
He's not. It's always kind of an insignificant guy or just...
But like I said, some of the neighbors said that he was prone to... He did prowl in people's backyards, so he was still doing that shit.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I called him on that. I said, this guy's a peeping Tom.
He is a peeping Tom, yeah.
Yep, he's a peeping Tom.
He did that kind of shit.
I said that in the first show.
He also, in the 90s, he called and threatened to kill someone if they didn't get their dogs to stop barking. And actually, it's funny because I'm on a Golden State Killer Facebook group. Yeah. So some people that comment on there ostensibly live in that area.
Yeah.
And a couple of them said that they knew him or knew of him. Like they'd seen him around the neighborhood. Like one guy said, oh, I see this guy every morning. He rides his mountain bike, you know, the same route as me. One person on there said that they'd worked as an auto tech at the local Walmart. And they said this guy used to come in here all the time and he was a dick and a half.
Yeah.
They said
BTK.
Yeah, they said he would always like park illegally. Like if you told him about it, he would like scream at you. He thought he was better than everyone. Yep. So he's definitely that kind of dude.
But really what he was a peeping Tom that decided to go in there and get some stuff and steal some stuff. And while he's there, he's going to steal some women. All right, I'm going to take that too. And then that guy, and they challenged me. They said, I only did it when the men weren't around. You know what? No. I'm going to do it when he's there too. And then eventually I'm going to kill them all. And then I'm going to eat all their stuff. I'm the greatest in the world. I'm the greatest.
And then I'm not going to get caught.
And
he didn't get caught.
But really what it is, it was a highly evolved peeping Tom who thought he was a commando and used commando and police tactics to be a peeping Tom / thief, rapist, murderer.
Yeah.
That's all.
And like I said,
He had balls, but you're still a piece of shit.
Yeah, he's still a piece of shit.
He was addicted to the endorphins and the adrenaline rush of doing these fake commando missions / raids on people's houses to steal their shit.
Because that's exactly what they were.
Yeah.
What they were. Because, I mean, he did, like I said, he would stake out like several houses in a neighborhood for weeks or months ahead of time until he could pick the best one. Yeah. You know what I mean? He would call people ahead and see what their schedules were. So there was like a lot of planning involved.
He's like, I'm the greatest pussy commando that's ever been around. I'm going to steal that pussy.
Pussy commando.
Yeah, pussy commando. Yeah. Isn't that a piece of shit? That's a low, for sex. Doing it for sex. Sex and power.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm kind of curious. Like I feel bad because I'm sure his poor wife that they've been estranged. Yeah. I'm sure she doesn't have anything to do with it and doesn't want anything to do with it. Yeah. She has not commented, and I don't blame her. But I'm kind of curious as to what he was like, what it was like being married. Like, did she know? Did she have any suspicion? It's kind of hard to tell.
I think he might have threatened her every now and then. It's like, I'm more than what you think I am. They're looking for me.
Because did he beat her? Because it seems like he's the type of dude that would do that.
It would be in that profile.
He would be for sure emotionally abusive.
He's one of those because I will smack a bitch. That's
he definitely came across like that.
So probably.
So yeah, I'm kind of like I said. I don't. Probably. If she doesn't want to speak out, she shouldn't have to. Right. Like I wouldn't blame her.
Although
if she didn't want to.
I kind of have a tendency to think that he probably did not molest his daughters. I have a feeling that he probably did not. I bet you he was ultra controlling and ultra protective of them.
That's kind of what I'm getting to. I don't get. I mean, he did rape a 13-year-old girl, but
I don't think he was
at one
raping
stage.
his own.
But yeah, I don't think because he's the type of guy that would think these are mine.
These are mine, so I'm not going to do anything for these.
So you don't do anything. I'm just going to protect
yours.
Yeah,
that's what
because I think that he would have thought of them as people, but he didn't think of anyone else.
Or
as
more
people.
Like possessions, his possessions. Yeah, but he's going to keep his possessions intact, and I'm respectable. Right. And so these are respectable. Your shit is not respectable. Your shit is mine, and my shit is mine. Yeah, that's the mentality.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I definitely don't think that he was, but I think he might have been.
There's a possibility, but I'm just saying it's unlikely.
Yeah, but I definitely do think he was
smacking your wife. That's within the realm of this is mine.
Yeah,
that's his mind.
Like I said, that would not shock me if he was physically or emotionally abusive to his
I'm disciplining you. I'm making you do the right thing. That's the way they fucking do that shit. Now, it could be that he was so manipulative that he didn't have to use force, just use,
mind control.
Mind control.
Yeah. But the thing that I wanted to say about this kind of in closing is that so I'm working on the second volume of The Faceless Villain, as most of you know.
Yeah, I almost said, Jenny, don't do that. Do a book about the original Night Stalker.
No, but Michelle Mcnamara already did one. Yeah, just came out.
Yeah, she said no.
It was a bestseller.
She said no.
Yeah, and I was like,
besides,
I don't have time to do that right
you got the trilogy to do.
Yeah, and the thing is, well, when I did the outline for this second volume, obviously most of the original Night Stalker crimes are going to be in there. Okay. And I hadn't got to that part yet. Yeah. Because I hadn't got to the 1975 or 1976 chapter yet. So I hadn't written them. And then when he got caught, I was totally shocked. And I was like, well, shit. Should I leave the shit in there? Because, the book's about unsolved crimes. Yeah. And now apparently they're solved, allegedly, right. Like I said. They're pretty sure that this is the guy. I mean, right. Like I said, the DNA matches. And at the moment, he's accused of... He's up for 8 counts of murder. Right. They're trying to tie him to all 12 and possibly the 13th, which is Claude Snelling, like I said, because they think that was the same. They don't have DNA from that, but it's kind of the same MO. It was in the same area. The ones that they had DNA evidence on, he has been linked to. They're going to try and get those indictments as well later on. So we'll see how that goes. His next court appearance is May 14th, and I don't know if there's going to be any news before that. But anyway, I decided that I wasn't going to put the original Night Stalker crimes in the book. After all, because, like I said, Michelle McNamara, the late Michelle McNamara, already had the book about it, and it just came out. It's a big bestseller, and it's apparently very good. I've read excerpts of it, and it's actually really beautifully written. So I'm just going to
Okay.
leave that alone.
All right.
But I
So-
should say that I was completely fucking shocked that and I think they were shocked that they caught the dude too, just like, because he wasn't even on the radar. And then all of a sudden there he was.
Actually, I caught him.
You caught him?
Yeah, that last show, I'm encouraging him to come forward to get his... No,
He
I'm
didn't
kidding.
come forward.
Just kidding.
You-
It sounded cool, though.
but can you- but
It'd
can
be really
you-
cool if I could spin it into that.
Yeah. But I mean, the reason that it was so shocking is because if one of his distant relatives hadn't happened to upload their DNA profile to that particular genealogy site,
they never would have
They
caught him.
probably never would have found him,
Although
which is creepy.
that kind of shit statistically probably happened many times over the past 15 years where
True.
something almost happened to get him caught. Just happened to this one actually went through. So he was probably almost caught many times.
Yeah.
But was there anything else you've dug up? Any more recent events on this case?
I don't think so.
Okay. Then I guess we can kind of wrap it up. This is our informal first discussion of the capture of the original Night Stalker. And we were vindicated. A lot of the stuff...
They got his ass.
They got him.
I can't believe it.
And a lot of the stuff from our first show proved to be true.
And like I said, a lot of the psychological profile that they established before, that turned out to be fairly accurate.
Fairly accurate.
I mean, other than him being married and other than him being...
Yeah, we gave our opinions.
We thought he'd be dead.
We gave our
or
opinions
in prison
on it.
for something else. We were wrong about that.
We gave our opinions on it. We were mostly right, and it mostly lined up with what the other people independently were looking for also.
Yeah.
Like the authorities were thinking the same thing we were thinking.
Yeah.
And we didn't do a huge amount of research on that first show. Just,
Well, just the regular standard amount of research like I usually do.
But,
timeline of the murders and stuff.
It was pretty obvious what kind of guy it was. To me, it was.
Yeah.
To you, it was too,
Yeah.
probably, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They, know, these kind of guys fall into different categories.
Right.
And like I said, he was similar to BTK, similar kind of category. So,
Yeah.
like I said, I can't believe
Yeah,
they
I
got
said
him.
I said several times, this is going to be a guy kind of like BTK.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and it was.
And that's exactly what it was.
Right.
But yeah, so we're going to have to keep watching the news and see how this all
see which more comes out. Yeah,
plays out.
We'll keep everybody updated if anything interesting comes out on the case.
Hopefully he talks. I really want him to.
Yeah, we'll either put it in our news reports or we'll do another dedicated show.
Yeah. All right. So we'll wrap this up. Like I said, our informal discussion about the capture of the Golden State Killer, a.k.a. the original Night Stalker, which we did a episode about way back on episode 8.
Way back when we were a new show.
Which was such a long time
We're
ago.
almost at 2,600 subs now.
Yeah.
Show growing fast. Please share, like, subscribe, comment.
And
Show's
really,
up.
and thanks for everybody for giving me a heads up on this story and for asking for us to do a revisit, because I'm really glad we got to do this. And
yeah, and we've had a lot of requests for new stuff, and we're working on it all. If it was a good request, we got it written down, so we'll get
it's like,
to it.
and yeah, it's not a case of we're ignoring you or anything like that. But it's like if you requested a movie for us to review, or if you requested a topic, we probably generally will get to it at some point if it was a good review. But you don't understand. I have a huge list. Like the movie review list is like 3 columns long.
Yeah, and Jenny's writing a book right now too. So she's writing a book. She's running a company. She's running the graphic design company. She's did the new record album cover for
A Starry Night.
Starry Night, new packaging and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm
tired, is what he said.
One of these days we got to plug that healing butterfly
Matcha tea.
Matcha tea. That shit is so good.
Yeah, I designed their packaging.
Because we get free samples. Man, that shit is good.
The mint is my favorite.
Yeah.
But evidently the vanilla and the chocolate are the best selling.
And that's gonna
but
be.
I like the mint the best, and you really like the ginger too.
I like the ginger, and that will probably be available in stores eventually. But I think they have online sales for right now.
You can buy it on Amazon.
That stuff is really good. Unfortunately, we can't give any free samples away, or we would. But Jenny did the packaging and all the design on that, and we got all those free samples of it. And man, that shit was good. Really,
it is
good.
very nice. Yeah,
very nice.
And they have some new products that are coming out that are even better, I think.
Right.
But I can't tell you what.
But if any of you guys buy that stuff, do a review for it, please.
Yeah.
That company actually wants new reviews.
Yep.
Because they're changing the blends. Like that one flavor that came out, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
What was it? Chocolate? One of them I didn't like. And you told me later on, well, they changed it.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to get the flavors right.
Yeah.
On some of the flavors. Yeah,
it's a small business, and they're from, they're right around here, based in Florida where we are, and they're really cool people, and they're, small business, local business, and they make really, really nice stuff.
Yeah, so if you want some matcha, buy some of that healing butterfly matcha. Jenny made that.
Well, I made the package anyway. So anyway, that'll do it for episode 89. Remember to like, share, subscribe on all your social media. Share with all your friends. Also, if you'd like to financially support the show, which would be very nice, you can go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/13o'clockpodcast. Or if you'd like to give a one-time PayPal donation, you can go to our blog, which is 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com. And there's a link in the sidebar to a PayPal account where you can give a donation there if you would like. Also, check out our Zazzle store at zazzle.com/13o'clock. We have several different designs of t-shirts and a tote bag that you may purchase. Also, if you haven't seen it yet, we did a really cool movie review of John Carpenter's Body Bags, a kind of underrated John Carpenter movie, and one where I keep saying, because I'm always saying, oh, he didn't do any good movies after the 80s, blah, blah, blah. But actually, I take that back because this one was very good. It was from 1993. And it's available on Tubi TV if you want to watch it, and our review of it just went up a few days ago. So go check that out. And that will do it for this episode. We'll see you next time. Bye.